By utilising the strength of dyslexic thinking, we can increase their engagement with learning. In this section, we look at how to use the strengths that we have covered, such as big picture thinking, visual-based learning, problem solving, or solution-focused thinking, and their ability to sense how others feel. We are looking to present information in a big picture format to hook into the dyslexic's need to see the big picture and connect with one of their dyslexic strengths. This can impact on the language you use and/or how you present information. For example, you might describe the end result of the activity or task. And you can partner this by using props such as diagrams and videos to help them see what it's going to look like. When presenting information, you want to show a completed example of what you require. You can use exemplars for writing, have different levels of these exemplars, showing what a good one looks like or an excellent one looks like, and explain the difference. The same for projects. Have an example of what you want the learners to provide. We're going to look at what is happening for the dyslexic learner and the big picture. Having all the information, including knowing the steps involved, is so they can start to build the big picture of what is required. Be explicit in what steps are required. Show them the finished product. Doing this visually is the best way, but you can paint a picture with words, especially if you can connect it to real-life situations they already have an understanding about. Having the big picture fits a dyslexic's way of thinking, but it's also important for helping them to get started on tasks. If they don't get the big picture, they will spend their cognitive space, effort, and time trying to work it out, seeing what others are doing by asking lots of questions, or they will give up. Their anxiety will also increase, making it even more difficult for them to work out what to do as their brain is starting to go offline. If you provide the big picture and the dyslexic learner is still struggling to start, this indicates that the steps they are seeing are too large. For example, if they are writing about a topic and the first step is research, break down what the research steps are, such as find a video on, or read this, this part, or write about this. You may have to sit with them and discuss what the headings they are going to research under are, just to help them get it out of their head and understand what steps they need to do. How can you help them make connections? To help them do this, connect the information to real life or to something they are interested in, or to something they already have knowledge of. This is because they can start to get an idea or a picture of what you're meaning. Be explicit in how things connect. For example, if they're learning to spell a word, purposely incorporate how they read this word and how they can write it in a sentence, so you are explicitly connecting the spelling and the reading and the writing of that word. With maths, connecting it to real life. If you create that picture of the connection, they can see it, and it's easier for them to learn it and retain it. How might I show them? Thinking of their strengths and defaulting to visual information, and also their ability to see the big picture. Use diagrams, stories they can connect with. For example, if they like rugby, use a rugby analogy to help them understand concepts. However, to retain information, multi-sensory methods help the information to stick better. Another way to hook into these strengths is giving them information prior to the lesson or the activity. I'll explain this further. This is a way to explain how dyslexics process information and what can help them to retain it easier. The shapes in this picture represent different bits of information. These bits of information come into a dyslexic's head and they can't see the connection, so they can't see the big picture of what it all means. So it's like these bits of information all floating around in their head, these bits of information, they're thinking about it, and what do they do with it? In this state, it takes a lot of energy and effort. It increases anxiety and it feels overwhelming for them. And they have a sense of, I'm never going to understand this. This would arise when you are teaching them a new concept in class and they don't have the connection to the information you are giving them. However, if you are to give them a type of framework, when you start to give them the information, it then has somewhere to fit in, to stick, and the thinking starts to order in a way that they can retain it. How best to do this is to give them prior knowledge. This prior knowledge starts that foundation of a framework, especially if it's visual, the information you give them, and they can connect to it. Examples would include giving them videos or diagrams or an audio story. For example, if they're going to be learning about bats and they then have to write about them, give them a YouTube video to watch about bats and their habitat and how they interact. If you're going to teach a new maths concept, show them a video of someone working through it. And especially if you could hook it into someone using it in real life. Let them have repeated access to the videos or the diagrams or the information you give them so they can go back to them as many times as they need. And then we want to look at how can you hook into this deep empathy or this really good ability to sense how other people feel. This can be encouraged through peer mentoring. Dyslexics can connect really well with younger students, so having them teach younger students can cement their own learning. Another way to hook into that deep empathy is hearing stories that incorporate how people feel. This was really driven home to me when I was assisting with reading in a classroom for year twos. The teacher was reading a book to the class on the mat. The story was about a brother and a sister, and they had been playing, and the sister had been taking the toys off the older brother and annoying him. After initially being annoyed, he worked out a solution so they were both happy, playing with the toys they had. On the last page of the book, the mum had bought them an ice cream, and the boy looked happy eating his ice cream. The teacher reading the story then asked the class, why is the boy smiling? In my head, I thought, oh, he's smiling because he's happy. He worked out a way to share the toys with his sister, and his mum was really pleased with him. But the answer the teacher actually wanted was that they had an ice cream, and the boy was happy because he had an ice cream. As a dyslexic, I hooked into the feelings. I looked at the whole story, what had happened in the whole book. And because my answer in my head was different, because I had gone wider and deeper, I thought I had got it wrong. And that was as an adult in a year two class. So these are just some examples how you can adjust or support the content you are teaching dyslexic students by utilising their dyslexic strengths.